To me, that's the brilliance in all of this is that you're in a mall parking lot. Like you've got
Yeah.
baked in traffic on day one. I just think that I can't get over that. That's brilliant. Welcome to the corner office. So every now and then I tweet about a business that just seems really freaking interesting to me. And this business was Dig World, which is basically a theme park for kids to come and operate excavators and other heavy machinery. And I knew nothing about this business. This business didn't pay me to appear on this podcast or anything. I just wanted to learn. And I thought, why not hit record right before I learn about a cool and interesting business? So I interviewed Jacob today. Jacob answered every single question I threw at him regarding numbers, revenue, how many customers, what are their revenue lines, how much does insurance cost, everything. I think you're going to love it. It's super interesting. It's a great guy. Enjoy. Jacob, great to meet you. I have no intent here other than just to learn about your business, as if we crossed paths at a dinner party and someone sat us next to each other and we were just talking business, because business is all I know. It's all I love. It's like, if you put me at a dinner party next to someone with a W-2, I'm just going to eat my chicken and that's it. So, so I just want to
Yes.
learn.
Love it. Love it, man. Well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for getting this set up. And I love talking about business as well. I love talking about Dig World. So thank you for letting me be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you first start by just talking about your background pre-Dig World? Like what happened in your life that got your brain to the point where you're like, I should start Dig World?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was born and raised all over the Southeast. I went to Texas A&M University. That's where I met my wife. We have a very traditional Aggie story. We dated all the way through college and moved to Houston afterwards. I tell people she had a real job, and so I needed to follow her to Houston. She's a CPA, so came to Houston and just stumbled around trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life, and didn't really couldn't put my thumb like perfectly on it, and knew I enjoyed people and knew I enjoyed connections and talking to people and being busy and out of the office, definitely not in the office. And so had a few jobs trying to get to where I ultimately landed. But in 2015, I was blessed to have some mentors of mine that gave me a little capital to start a commercial cleaning company. And so in 2015, started a commercial cleaning company that's still in existence today. And we're super proud of that company. But that really sparked what I now would call my entrepreneurial journey. I think even then, I probably wouldn't even consider myself an entrepreneur, right? I would have probably just said, yeah, Mark and Jeff gave me some money and I'm going to try to start this company. I probably wouldn't be able to qualify it or quantify it and put words around it, but just knew
So
I loved it.
how did you get there? Like why cleaning? Why Mark and Jeff? How did you get to that
Yeah.
point?
Yeah. Why cleaning? So I had one of those companies I had stumbled around trying to figure out what I wanted to do a little bit. I did operations for a cleaning company. Knew I enjoyed it, enjoyed the space, enjoyed the people I got to work with. Sometimes most of the time I enjoy the people I work with far more than I enjoy our customers, but I loved that space. Then I went and sold insurance and did some other things. But why Mark and Jeff? It was really Mark introduced me to Jeff. But Mark, I'm always telling people, get out there and do random things. I coached Mark's son in Little League Baseball when
Mhm.
he was in first grade. And Mark and I just hit it off. And he was just an older guy I looked up to. And so we got lunch a few times. And that was that was a journey of 4 to 5 years of just friendship and mentorship before it turned into investment opportunity. And even then, he's the one that spurred me on to do it. People, I probably look at my story and be like, oh man, how'd you start that? Well, Mark told me to, right? It was one of those things like he believed in me probably before I believed, or definitely before I believed in myself. And so he saw something there and just said, hey, go do this. And so we started it from nothing. And now we're super blessed and got about 400 employees. And it's a fun business. But so that's what started this quote unquote entrepreneurial journey. But really, how we got to Dig World is I've got 3 kids now. My oldest son was born in 2015. He was born 4 days before we started our cleaning business, and so that's always a good motivator. If you want to get out there and hustle, have a kid, it'll teach you to get out there and sell something. But in February of 2017, my wife and I we woke up our son Pierce unconscious in his crib. He was almost 2 years old. We found out after we rushed him to the hospital he had contracted bacterial meningitis. He wasn't supposed to make it 48 hours. God had different plans, and he was in a coma 12 days. He was in the hospital 75 days. And when we left the hospital, Pierce could no longer talk. He's in a wheelchair now. He's deaf. He has about 100 seizures a day. Mental capacity is probably a 1 year old. And so we left the hospital 75 days later with a completely different kid. And we didn't know what to do, right? Like our life, one day we're talking to him, walking around, throwing the ball to leaving the hospital 75 days later in a wheelchair. And he's 9 years old now and still has all those conditions, right? I haven't heard him talk since he was 2 years old and 100 seizures a day. He's still deaf. lower IQ by our standards, but I tell you what, the kid is the happiest, most joy-filled kid you'll ever meet in your life. And my wife and I always say, man, it's great to be Pierce, right? He doesn't see the world. He sees the world the way we should see the world, right? He doesn't care about your skin color, doesn't care about your income, doesn't care what your house looks like. He just wants you to be with him, right? He just wants you to
Hmm.
hang out with him. And so from that, Pierce has always and still does love construction equipment, garbage trucks, dump trucks, the whole thing. So we came across this idea, my co-founder and I, or Rick Bennett, and I said, hey, let's go build a theme park. And let's, with the mission of bringing people together. Like at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. It may sound cheesy to some, and I would say, I don't care. But really, at the end of the day, the thing that excites me is I can look out this window right here and I see people in lines and I just want to go talk to them all. And if we can have a chance to bring mom and dad and kids together, or aunts and uncles, I just met a grandpa who's been in construction 30 plus years, and he wanted to bring his grandson so he could show his grandson what he did for 30 years. That's why we do what we do. A byproduct of that is, yes, making money, no doubt, and creating a scalable business that we want to grow and grow across the country. But we really opened it with this idea of how do we bring people together. And so we started fundraising in 2019. I tell people all the time the two things that worked against us fundraising was, one, we have a crazy idea. And it's one thing to pitch people a real estate investment. It's one thing to pitch people a cleaning business. Those are hard in and of itself, right? Because you got to show the
But
metrics,
people
show the
can wrap
numbers,
their minds around it.
you can wrap your mind around it. And so Rick and I, our joke always became, we'd go into somebody's office. We'd say, hey, listen, we got a great idea. We're going to build a theme park. Okay, I'm interested. Where are you going to build a theme park? Katy, Texas. Okay, it's a great growing suburb. Young families love it. What are you going to do? We're going to let a 3-year-old drive a skid steer by themselves. And they go, get out. I don't want anything to do with that. And so we had that working against us. And then in 2020, COVID happened. That was working against us too. And so we finally got through persistence and crazy nights and crazy dreams, we got the park open in March of 2022.
Okay. So a lot to unpack there. First of all, thank you for sharing your story. You don't know me, right? I'm just now meeting you for the first time, but we have a very
Yeah.
similar story. My daughter contracted a terminal illness at age 3. She's still with us today, but life was never the same, right? She had a lung
Yeah.
disease, and then we moved to Katy for 6 months, where you are, to get on the transplant list, and she got a double lung transplant. So we have
Wow.
very fond memories of that area because we spent six months there on the transplant list. But I'm very much driven by two things. One is a chip on my shoulder from people that doubted me. Two, from that, like, I want to spend time with my kids, right?
Yep.
Because their time here is very limited. And it's just always in the back of my mind. Like, you got to do better. You got to make enough money to where you can afford to spend more time with your kids, because
Yep.
time is short, right?
That's
So
right.
thank
I
you for
saw
sharing that. That's a beautiful
a buddy
story.
of mine sent me a tweet the other day, and cheesy, sure, whatever, but I think the point is true. He said, if you died today, your work will replace you in approximately 2 weeks.
Hmm.
But your kids can't replace you, right? They can't replace that time. And so I think it's one of those things like, whether you own your business or not, right? I think we look at that and man, work is the end all be all. And I think we're absolutely called to work hard. I think that's what we're supposed to do, provide for our family and our loved ones. But man, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, right? It's hanging out with the family. That's the important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The graveyard is full of irreplaceable men. So I have to think that in 2019, when you had this idea, someone on some other corner of the world was doing this, that you were pointing to investors saying, wait, but these guys are doing it. They haven't gone out of business. Like, was there another kind of template that you looked at when you launched?
Yeah, no doubt. There's a much bigger version of us up in New Jersey. They've been around since 2014, and so yes, there was a bigger version. They're all day. Our model's a lot smaller, and we can get to that later. But theirs is big park. You're 30 plus acres. You're there all day, full blown food and beverage
Mm,
kind of operation. But we would point to them and say, hey, listen, they can do it. We can do it. Right? Probably that little Texas
yeah.
arrogance of like, we can do that.
I've done the
And
same thing.
yeah, a little
Yeah.
laughing and crying as we go on. But so yes, there was a somewhat of a model out there that we could point to, but not necessarily our model. And so there's still a lot of question marks. And then again, right, Rick and I had never worked a day in a theme park, and so I think that was always the next question: like, cool, I get it. What do you know about a theme park? And our answer would always have to be, just trust us, right? We'll work hard and figure it out. And the vast majority did not take that opportunity. The
Sure.
overwhelming majority, and the few that did, we love them dearly.
So it took 3 years to go from concept to launch, right?
Yep. Yep.
How much money did you have to raise, and what did launch look like?
We ended up total raising probably close to $3 million. and launch looked awful. So I tell people all the time, one of the things that I like to say I have in common with Walt Disney is the day that he opened Disney World, they actually call it Black Friday. They were overrun with people. It was a terrible experience. People printed fake tickets, and it was a
Hmm.
disaster. Now, we didn't have people printing fake tickets, but it was a complete disaster here. And that was my doing, right? I made the mistake there. I pushed us to open too early. And what's sad about it is if you look back on it, we were probably only 48 hours away from when we would have been ready to open, but we
Mm-hmm.
opened 48 hours too soon. Our all the technology wasn't ready. I was arrogant and like, hey, we'll figure it out, or hey, we don't need everything up and running. And we were blessed that we were overrun with people. The problem is that we were overrun with people, and
Hmm.
it was a terrible disaster. And so we made the decision that night to close the park down for a couple more days to get it right. And so I tell people as I go on, I would probably be the only theme park operator in history that says in one day I opened a theme park and the same day I closed a theme park. And so, but we've been fighting that uphill battle ever since. Because the media is a harsh thing, right? Everybody covered our grand opening, every news outlet covered our grand closing, and then nobody covered us when we opened again. And
Oh no.
so, I ran into a
Yeah.
guy a couple weeks ago at the grocery store. He saw my shirt and he said, "Man, it's such a shame you guys had to close down." I'm like, dude, we've been open for 2 years, but
Yeah.
so we've been fighting this marketing misperception for a while now.
Well, they say any publicity is good publicity, but I would think that would be one of the exceptions, right?
That is
When
one of the yes, trust me, we
everyone
found the
thinks you're
exception.
closed.
That's right.
Jeez Louise. So what specifically was going wrong? Was it your tech, like your point of sale system? Was it the machines?
Yeah, so it was actually nothing was wrong. We didn't have enough machines programmed yet. And
Okay.
so the technology was working. Like we were able to open and people did some of the rides. So it was nothing that it didn't work. It was that we didn't have our technology on every machine yet. So therefore, we didn't have enough machines going. And
Yeah.
so people got to do it, but they waited in line forever. There was only a couple machines operating versus now we've got 30, 40 pieces of machinery out there operating today. That day it was probably like four. So it was
Yeah.
again, nothing that was wrong. It just wasn't fully done yet.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk numbers regarding your property. So how many acres do you own the land? Do you lease the land? How many square footage is your building? Number of machines? I'd love to hear all that stuff.
Yeah, so we sit on 3.5 acres here. So what most people don't know is we're actually a tenant of the mall that we're adjacent to, and
Oh,
so the
cool.
the piece of dirt that we sit on has been a grass field since 1999, and it's just set here. And so we came in. Rick had a great idea of reaching out to the mall, and so we came in and so we leased the land from the mall. So we're just like a normal tenant here
That's awesome.
at the mall. We built everything out here. So what's funny is we have a lot of asphalt around the park, so people think we actually were a parking lot and we just put this in a parking lot. It's actually the opposite is true. It's a piece of grass that we put asphalt on to build our park. So we sit on 3.5 acres. We have roughly all in probably about 30 pieces of machinery right here, 25 to 30 pieces of machinery out here, all different kinds. And then our building. So we thematically, the nice thing about building a construction theme park is you can essentially put a job site trailer out here and
I
it's
was
cheap,
I
it's
was hoping
affordable.
you were going to say that. That's
Yes.
brilliant.
So, but it's also, and it fits theme, right? So, anyway, so we're
Yeah.
sitting here. We have it's four wide. So I think it's like 2,000 square feet total. It's our office, but also our retail shop and areas where people walk through at the end.
It's like two single wides or
It is 4 units stacked together.
okay. Same thing you would see on a job site, like a
That's
mobile
it.
home, basically.
That's it. Yep.
That is brilliant. And it probably helped with like construction and zoning and getting
Yeah.
approvals for stuff.
Yeah. It was interesting on the zoning deal. A lot of red tape, a lot of hurdles because not many people build permanent buildings to be this, right? It's dropped onto a job site. It's gone 6 to 8 months later. So we had to figure out with the city a lot of like, how do you grade this? Like, what does it look like to actually have it concreted into the ground or strapped into the ground? So there was a lot of back and forth there for a while that held up this specific building. Our restrooms were made out of construction or excuse me shipping containers, and so
Mhm.
we kept the theme there, but cost down by building out shipping containers.
Okay, so when you were looking at the template in New Jersey for this, had anyone ever done this next to a mall before, or were you guys the
No,
first at that?
no, and really only the only template I would say that we looked at them for was, hey, you can let young kids operate
Yes.
machines
They are
safely.
charging people for this and they're still in business 5 years
That's
later.
right. Past that, there was nothing on their template that we were like, oh, let's just replicate that or
Yeah.
do that. It was more of like, hey, no, 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 no. Trust me, Mr. Investor. You can take a 3-year-old and put them on an excavator because they've been doing that.
Yeah.
We, again, our technology, all that's all our stuff that we had to invent from the ground up. Nothing from that template per se.
Okay. To me, that's the brilliance in all of this is that you're in a mall parking lot. Like you've got
Yep.
baked in traffic on day one. I just think that I can't get over that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Yes, there are definitely malls that are dying, no doubt. And as a whole, yes, I totally get that. The mall that we're at, though, if you find the right mall, 12 million people walk through this
Mhm.
mall a year.
Mhm.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And so, just
And
to
that
make a
area is
generic
growing
blanket,
like crazy.
that's right. That's right. So, there's a lot of factors that go into when somebody says, "Oh, you're by a mall. Malls are dying." Maybe not. Right? Both can be true.
Yeah. If you're in Houston, Texas, there's always going to be a market for indoor shopping.
Very
It's
true.
like the
Yes.
worst
Very, very
weather.
true.
Anyway,
Yes.
also, I feel like I have a framework with commercial real estate where it's like you've got Froyo and Froyo explodes and then it dies. But there will always be Froyo places in the best locations, right? You've
Yep.
got like the cold stones and the marble slabs of the world. Same. You've got cookie shops. Like there will always be cookie shops in the best locations. There will always be indoor malls in the best locations. And the ones
That's
in
right.
the so locations or bad locations will die.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
So, okay. So let's talk about your equipment. 30 pieces of machinery. Do you own these? Did you buy them new, used, lease? What are we looking at?
Yeah, it's funny. I've had the privilege of reading through some of the comments on the tweet that you threw out there. And it's funny, right? What people come in with perceptions and ideas of how things should be or not. And again, a lot of it's like people guessing, right? The only thing
Mm-hmm.
you can do
They
logically
have
is
no
guess
idea.
when you don't know the answer, right? But no, these are, to answer one of your person's comments, these are real machines. These can operate on a real job site. We bought them from Caterpillar. They did not, these aren't refabbed or refurbed. These aren't out of commission machines. These are very much new machines that we purchased, so we own them, and then we put on our proprietary technology on the back of it to be able to operate in a safe manner to where kids can
Like
operate it. And
like a governor, basically.
yeah, give or take that. Yes, on some of the machines, that's probably the oversimplification of it. But
Mm-hmm.
for example, on our excavators, right, they go only certain degrees to the right and left, only certain degrees up and down. They're stationary. You can't do anything to make that machine go forward or backwards. So the tracks are still. They're also on a timer so that when we activate the machine, the kid or adult gets to use it. And then when that timer is done, the machine keeps running, but the hydraulics are dead. And so that's how we get kids off the machine, right? If not, I'd have to be pulling Timmy off the machine every 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
so that there's a lot of components that go into that, but then there's override buttons and kill switches. Then we have the ability to flip it back when we need to do things around here around the park, either move things, move objects. We
Mm.
can turn it back into a quote unquote what we call a real machine versus the dig world mode.
Okay. So do you own these or do you lease them?
Yep, we own them.
Caterpillar must love you guys, right? Like you're a
They,
brand new
they,
customer that didn't exist to them 10 years ago. You're exposing them to all of these kids that might end up operating or buying one in 20 years, right?
that's right. Yeah, that's right. So I think our park wins, and I'll be completely transparent. Accidentally, unbeknownst to Rick and I, it wins on a lot of fronts, right? So we win with Caterpillar because Caterpillar gets their brand out here. They get their name out here. They get kids thinking about yellow iron versus green iron, and they get to grow up with that image of Caterpillar in their mind. So whether they buy one for their self
Mm-hmm.
one day or they work for a company and they have the ability to buy, they want to buy Caterpillar. So they're working on brand identity, no doubt. The other thing too is we have partners. I went to A&M, Rick and I did, and so we have a partnership with A&M. They're incentivized to educate the next generation about construction working, right? They know for a fact that they can get to a kid before they're in eighth grade. So anytime on that spectrum before eighth grade and convince them about construction work, they have a much higher probability of that kid
Mm-hmm.
going into that field, because it's a lot like the military, right? You look at the military, people go, "Oh, I just shoot guns or fly planes." No, the military, you can do any job in the military, right? It's a whole ecosystem. And so I think the military's got the same issue where they're going, no, 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 we don't just shoot guns and fly airplanes. Like you could go here and become a doctor. You can be a lawyer. Like, and so I think A&M is incentivized, and as well as other people in the construction industry, to get kids at an early age going, well, hold on. You can make a phenomenal living in doing this. You also aren't necessarily going to be outside pouring asphalt every day. You might, but there's also 1,000 other jobs that go along with that.
Yeah. What does that partnership look like? Like, how are you helping each other?
Yeah, so A&M, for example, they provided us, they had a bunch of undergraduates and graduates write our educational curriculum. So when we host the plethora of field trips that we have out here during the school year, we go through this educational curriculum. Also, if you were to walk the park, you'll see signs everywhere of fun facts about construction, right? This machine can lift this many buildings and this many elephants and blah, 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 and random things like that. They cultivated all of that curriculum for us and made those signs, and you'll see their brand around the park. Caterpillar, when you walk up into our park, you will see the Dig World logo and you'll see the Mustang Cat. They're our local equipment provider here in the greater Houston market, Mustang Cat. And so you'll see their name everywhere, right? You come into our retail shop on the way out, there's a huge Mustang Cat wall that talks about all their offerings and what they can do for you or your business.
Now, are they paying you for that, or did you get like a discount on the machines for that?
We have two different deals. So we have a sponsorship deal. So they are a sponsor. And then we were able to, when you're buying, just like when you're buying fleet of vehicles, right? When you're buying that much volume at once, you can negotiate some deals. So we were able to negotiate the price down a little bit. But also, and again, another thing that most people don't realize, when we were buying these machines, it was the tail end of the height of COVID, right? I mean, there weren't machines to be had.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think going forward, as we open up parks around the country, we'd love to strike a bigger deal with the Caterpillar or the local dealers because the inventory is back.
Mm-hmm.
Then Mustang Cat, I mean, they were phenomenal. They're phenomenal partners of ours. They're also hamstrung back then, right? It was like, hey, this is what we have and this is the price because this is all we have. So we have a paid marketing sponsorship on top of that.
Okay. So was that one of your biggest startup costs, was buying these machines back in
Yeah,
2022?
and yeah, so yes and no. Construction costs, right? Of building the whole park. That's the main startup cost. Building something from the ground up. We've been able to work in the equipment, the underwriting model through different financing routes, that kind of stuff. But the upfront big cost was obviously the construction of everything.
Okay. Now tell me about developing the software to act as a governor on these machines. How did you do that internally? Did you hire someone? Did you outsource it? Was that a very difficult process?
Yes, yes. And so we have an engineer that works with us, and it's the technology he developed that we have the rights to. And so he is our guy. He was out here yesterday tweaking some things. But yeah, it was very difficult process. And again, can anybody do it? Yeah. Can anybody go pay somebody to do it? Sure. But finding the right person that can, because at this day and age, it's like a car, right? These Caterpillar, these machines are computers, right? Like the car you drive is just a computer, right? At the end
Yeah.
of the day. Same with these machines. Yeah, they're still fundamentally the same thing that they were, but they're also computers now. And so we're essentially having to rewrite the computer that's in the computer to set our computer to it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I love this business because some businesses just inherently come with, it's like they have baked in haters, right? Like when you
Oh,
post
yeah.
to social media or I post to social media about you, there's going to be like two or three categories of comments. It's going to be like
Right.
insurance. How do you insurance, liability? What, he must be an idiot. And then
Yep.
you've got all the people saying like, is this is this even safe? Yeah. Like, and then you've got people talking about the price. And like, I just love the idea of launching businesses that are reverse engineered from the comments of other businesses, right? To where just a natural organic post from your business will generate all this negative attention that just tell the algorithms, hey, let's push this to a wider audience because people are talking about this, right?
Yep.
That's what happened with Rolling Suds, the pressure washing company. Everyone comments there like, oh, you're just spraying bleach all over. Is that even legal? Yes, it's legal to spray bleach in all 50 states. But people
Yes.
don't know that. And so they all comment that and it just grows and grows and grows. So
Yes.
with that being said, what are your insurance costs like?
Yeah.
Is that
A
a
lot.
significant line item?
Yeah. It's a lot. But I think it's in line with any other business. Again, so I think the key to any business, right, is you hit the nail on the head. I've got a great friend who's an insurance broker. I said, hey, would you ever want to underwrite Dig World? No, no way. No way I'd ever do that. That's a crazy, and that's his perspective on it. My best friend, who is our insurance broker, man, if you find the right people that believe in you, they will hustle to find the right
Mm-hmm.
carrier that gets what you're doing, right? And so, listen,
Mm-hmm.
it always cracks me up when people are like, "Man, how'd you ever get insurance?" Well, hold on, time out. How do rodeos get insurance? How do
Yeah.
carnivals and malls get
Thank you.
insurance? How did water parks get
It
insurance? I mean,
gets a
listen,
lot worse than this.
right? Listen. We've been very blessed. No incidents in 2 years. Knock on wood. We continue to have no incidents. I think that one of the biggest misperceptions is, oh my gosh, these kids are just driving skid steers through the park. No, no, they're driving it
No.
on an enclosed track that we have double enclosed. We've got kill switches on the machines. Listen, our park is significantly safer than you go into a go kart park.
Yeah.
But it's a new concept. It's a new idea. It boggles the mind a little bit, which is awesome, right? I mean, it's why we wanted to
Yeah.
do it. And that's what we do, right? Let's go do crazy things. And so finding the right carrier that goes, yeah, okay, I get what you're doing. Let's work through it together. Let's understand the technology on it. And so we're fortunate that the main carrier that we have, they underwrite those things I just listed: theme parks, rodeos, water. So they are risk tolerant and get it. And again, when you understand fundamentally what we're doing and how we're doing it and the inspections that we go through, you go, oh, okay. All right. I get it. Now, is it a big line item? Yeah, because I'm running a theme park. But I would argue to you that our insurance lines are proportional to any other theme park out there.
Are you able to say on a percentage basis or a real dollar basis what they are per month?
It's probably anywhere from, depending upon renewals and things like that, anywhere from 8 to 10%.
Okay. That's not crazy. You've got companies insuring tour guides that put people in shark cages, right? Like,
Exactly. Exactly. Right. And again, it's always the human psyche I'm fascinated by, right? And what you said, right? You attract haters, you attract people that like champion you on, and you're like, you're the greatest person ever, right? And I like your tweet, right? Like we read that and we're like, man, dude, this guy, I don't even know this guy. This is awesome.
yeah.
And so we love those things. But it's also funny to me when you have something new that is by definition brand new. Yes, I know people want to talk to the other facilities that are out there now. The preconceived notions that people walk up with, right? Of going, well, I don't think it should cost this much money, or I think I should. Well, hold on. I love you. I love your opinion. I'm here for it. But I've got a water park right over here across the highway. You don't go up to those guys and be like, listen, this is what the price should be. No,
Yeah.
it's because it's set in the end. It's set, right? So there's also issues as you start things, right? That fine line as an entrepreneur, and I think people listening to this, it's super important to listen to your customer. It's also super important to know your model, right? And
Yeah.
also, we talk about the time, the silent majority. The silent majority never speaks up, right?
Hmm.
If we go through the park and we go through, let's say we go through a whole month, we see 5 to 8,000 people throughout the whole month, depending upon the seasonality of what month it is. I get 3 nasty reviews. It'll keep me up at night. It'll
Hmm.
bother me in my
Yep.
core. That's 3 people out of roughly 8,000 people. Now, that doesn't mean that all 8,000 loved it. Sure. Some may think it was stupid, waste of time, waste of money, whatever. They're never going to come back. So be it. But if I fixate on those three of the 8,000, man, I'm missing the opportunity. I listened to a podcast
Hmm.
yesterday. The guy said he owns restaurants. He says it's never as bad as they say, and it's never as good as they say. And I like that kind of that level headedness approach to it.
Yeah. It's funny. I have this framework where I say, listen to the haters if the hater knows more about your industry than you,
Sure.
right? Because when I launched my first business in college, it was an iPhone repair store. And this boomer was like, quote, mentoring me. And he had just owned like a home inspection business his whole life. And he's like, this is stupid. iPhones are like, this isn't, you can't build a business out of fixing this new thing. It was 2010. And I was like, yeah, these guys in Louisiana are doing it. They're opening stores all over the place. These guys in Florida are doing it. Like, there's none here. It will work. It's like, and it's just like, I'm not listening to someone that doesn't know what they're talking about. But if that guy was in the industry and he's like, listen, man, I know it looks good, but here's what's happening. It's like, okay, I'm going to listen to this guy,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. That's right. That's fair.
Um, it's funny because back to insurance, the most viral tweets I've ever had have always been about some sort of business that had an insurance component. And I tweeted about a zipline business last week. And I was like, and I baited people on purpose. I was like, tell me why this wouldn't work. Insurance, liability, insurance. What do you do about insurance? And my response is the same. It's like, you buy insurance. That's
Right.
your
That's
solution.
right.
You pay
That's
for it. And then I tweeted, and this lost me a few followers. I said, insurance is the warm security blanket that people use to never start businesses. And it's like, oh, I can't. It's too much of a liability. I shouldn't. I should. It's like, dude, stop.
Yep. Yeah,
Stop.
I think I'm probably unfortunate on the record too many times, and I've got buddies in both these spaces, so they've heard me say it to their face, so I can say it. But I think lawyers and insurance agents kill deals, right?
Yeah.
And I think they both have their place. I think they're both super important. I think you need to listen to wise counsel of both. But man, a good attorney and a good insurance agent will be like my buddy, who's awesome. He said, "Hey, listen, you're gonna have to pay for this. We'll go find somebody that'll do it." Rather than no, you can't. It's too crazy, or man, that's like no, hey, listen, I'm with you. I see the dream. I see the vision. Same with attorneys, man. We listen sometimes too many of those voices, and with society, we put them on a higher pedal because they're lawyers, and they're bankers. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times, man, it's just finding the right person that goes alongside you and says, hey, it's harebrained, but I'll be right there with you. And if we can get
Yeah.
it done, we'll get it done.
There's always someone for every deal. Like there's
That's
always a
right.
way to make any deal happen.
That's right.
So you're talking about prices. That was the central focal point of my tweet is how do you not charge more? And that's I'm not like this isn't a softball to get you to like
Yep.
sell yourself. I'm genuinely surprised how and why you don't charge more than $25 for 2 hours.
Yeah, it's funny. What's interesting is we've been actually debating your tweet in the office for a couple of days. The psychology behind when you said $12 an hour. It's interesting because that's true, right? Like
Mhm.
it's a 2 hour minimum. You got to buy
It's not how you
20.
it's not how you frame it on your
That's
website.
right.
It's how I
That's right.
stated it.
That's right. That's right. But and both are true, right? And so it was very interesting of like, oh man, I like the way you said it, because what's funny when you say that, I get complaints often about how we're too expensive. And here's so we did a lot of market studies. We did a lot of studies on the water park beside us, some other family farms around us. And we felt like 24.99 was a good deal for the average family for the experience that we believe that we're providing. Now, I've got technically competitors of mine that just opened up a facility in Tennessee. Their kid price is $55 and their adult price is $70. And now again, different model. They want you there all day, bigger food and beverage, bigger park, totally different model. 24.99 works in our model. If I see a certain amount of people annually, we're open 12 months a year, so that helps too.
Mhm.
We have other revenue streams like field trips and birthday parties that aren't just the 24.99 route. Some are cheaper, some are more expensive. But for us, what's interesting is the thing that gets held up. We talk about preconceived notions, right? The number one complaint that we get at our park is, oh, no, 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 no. I don't need to pay. I'm just here for Timmy to do the rides. Correct. Everybody that walks through our gate has to buy a ticket. Well, no, no, I'm just going to
Okay.
watch. Totally understand that. You have to buy a ticket. The same would be nobody would, everybody would think you're crazy if you went over to the water park and you said, hey, listen, I'm not going to ride into water slides today. Just Timmy's going to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't need a ticket. No, you need a ticket.
Yeah.
Same, we try to tell people all the time. Same with children's museums. At a children's museum, at least the ones around us, it's cheaper for the kid to go than it
Mhm.
is the adult. And I can assure you, I'm not doing those activities. So it's interesting that the psychology we give some people are like, no, 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 I don't
Mm.
think I should have to pay. I disagree with you. And so the
How often
twenty four ninety
do you
nine,
get that a lot?
oh, weekly. Yeah, 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 all the time.
Okay. That's like your number one complaint?
I would argue that is our number. Now, listen, it's the summertime. Our number one complaint's about to be that it's hot outside. And
That's your
so
fault.
I have yet to figure out the solution to that answer. I know people always say, just put more shade. I get it. It's still hot in Texas standing under shade
How do you
trees.
do that? How do you do that?
So
Yeah.
that will become our number one complaint here in about a week or two. But consistent complaint is, I think it's ridiculous that I had to pay. And my kid just did the ride.
Huh. Okay. So if a grandma brings her grandson in, it's a $50 ticket price for you, and you're
That's right.
really only serving one of those people.
In theory, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Now,
That makes a little
what
more
I tell
sense.
people is 9 out of 10 times the people that complain about it, I watch, they end up getting on the machines anyways and doing the
Yeah.
rides. Now,
And
some don't, right?
they've already
They
paid for
strictly
that, right?
They're right. That's right. They've
Like
already paid
they
for
don't
it.
have to pay extra to get on the machine.
Correct. That's the other thing is we're not a nickel and dime operation, right? That's the other thing we didn't want to be. So that's why that 24, we thought about, hey, you come in and every ride is $5 or, we
Yeah.
thought about that. We don't want you to think about it. When you come
Mhm.
into our park, you can do this everything you want 100 times. I want you to do it 100 times. 24.99 for that. The only things that you would pay extra for is that you're choosing. You can purchase a gym mining bag, you can purchase food and beverage, you can purchase a retail item. All three of those, though, do not have to be purchased to achieve the goal of operating machinery. And so
Mhm.
those three things are outside of the core of what we're doing. And so we feel fine charging for that, knowing that we can deliver the full experience for 24.99.
I didn't realize you had a gem mining station. That's awesome. My kids love that.
Yes.
I think it's such, and you just buy the bags from somewhere else. And
That's right. And all credit right there goes to my business partner. When we started, again, none of us were in the theme park space. None of us knew really anything. And he went to a conference and he called me and he said, hey, listen, we're going to buy this. And it was kind
yeah,
of I'm pulling the just trust me card.
yeah, it's an
And
asymmetric bet, right?
right. And so even when it showed up, I was like, dude, I trust you, but I don't get it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't understand how this thing even operates. And I tell you what, man, that thing is our number one, I mean, it's obviously not our number one generator of revenue because that would be just
The
general admission.
outside of the main thing,
Outside,
it's number
that's
one.
it, dude. I mean, kids live over there, dude. That's where my daughter wants to be every time she comes here. And so
Yeah.
it's a good product. I mean, I do believe it's a good product and you get good things from it and kids are fascinated by it, but it's hilarious to watch.
Well, it's because it plays on our human nature. Like it's inherent in
Yeah.
our DNA that we're treasure hunters. We
That's
always
it.
have
That's
been.
exactly
And
right.
we want to explore and find something, and that will
And
never
it
go
does
away.
create a wonder and awe, right? Like you've got this
Yep.
You got this pile of dirt that all of a sudden you run through water and all of a sudden gyms appear. It's this wonder and awe sensation
Hmm.
of it as well.
Do you have any numbers on what percentage of kids buy the gem mining as well? Do any come just for the gem mining?
It's a great question. To answer your second question, yes. First one, no. You talk about the beauties of startup entrepreneurship is when you're trying to piece together your right systems and technologies and tools. The company we were with on our point of sale system was good. It was good enough. Doesn't tell us enough data. And so
Hmm.
the one we've just now switched to, we can start to get really granular. Like I can pull your profile and know how much you spent specifically on
Mm.
gem mining, all that kind of stuff. So we're starting to gather that data. But I would have to believe that is the majority of our guests. At least somebody in their party gets a bag.
Really? The majority of your guests?
Yeah. Again,
Wow.
that's me watching it for 2 years.
Sure,
I don't
sure. That's
actually have hard
anecdotal,
data
but
behind that. That's correct. That's correct.
that's surprising. That must have really moved the needle for you then.
It's a great revenue driver for sure. Great call on Rick's
Because
part.
you didn't even work that into your underwriting on day one, right? That was
Mm-mm.
just a cherry on top.
No, truly, our underwriting. Literally, Rick and I wanted to make the model not work. Right. Like, I think that's important is figure out what breaks the
Yep.
model. Right. Like,
Overly
and it,
conservative.
overly conservative. And really, our only revenue line items were general mission. We thought we could sell some field trips, and we thought we could maybe like food and beverage, like just kind of like a
Yeah.
big bucket for that. And that was really the main revenue drivers.
Do you sell t-shirts or hats or anything? Any
Oh yeah,
merch?
yeah. We got a 1,200 square foot merch store. Another thing that people some have it's always have a complaint. I force you out through the retail shop, like you have to exit the park that way, and so parents either love or hate me for that.
Yeah.
But we force you through. It's an indoor. It's funny because like it's indoor, it's AC, so you come out of the heat, right? So you're literally like, let's just stand here for a second. And then we sell toys, books, hats, shirts, flashlights, backpacks. Your typical retail items in there, but unique Dig World things.
Is food and beverage a sizable line item?
Yeah, it's a sizable line item. Again, we only want you here for 2 hours. That's what we need for our model to keep people churning in and out. So we only sell prepackaged stuff. So chips, candy, bottled drinks, ice
Hmm.
cream. We
It's
are
kind
about
of
to start
something
selling.
you have to sell, right? Like people
That's right.
literally need to eat and drink. It's not like you really
That's right.
want to make money on it.
That's right. But I don't want to get into as of right now at this park, this location, I don't want to get in the hot dog business or the
Yeah.
hamburger business.
Keep
So that's right. We're gonna keep it simple, and you can go to Chick-fil-A when you leave here and get food if you need it.
Yeah, there's probably 13 within 10 minutes.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so we got general admission, food and beverage, merch, gems. Is there anything else? So let's talk about field trips. I want to know like how that plays into your revenue, how that's priced, and what the strategy is there.
Yeah. So field trips for us, heavily discounted ticket for the kids, right? It goes anywhere from $4 to $8, but you're talking massive volume, right? So you're
Hmm.
talking big volume, a couple hundred kids at a time. You're also talking about significant labor decrease on my side, right? Because you're coming. So during the school year, our park is only open Saturday and Sunday. We're open on certain holidays, but for the most part, it's Saturday, Sunday. And so the park's closed Monday through Friday. And so you can come and do a field trip on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. And I only need to bring, gosh, a
Mm.
tenth of our labor. And so those are great margin items for us. And kids love it, right? It's unique, it's totally different. The park shut down, they get to operate machines. Teachers love it because we do all the quote unquote babysitting, right? Like the kids are in an enclosed area, they can run wild, so the teachers can just kick back and relax and enjoy the park. So it's a good line item for us. I want it to be significantly higher line item for us. That's one of the growth areas. And
Hmm.
again, some things you don't know until you're in it, right? You start the business and you go, man, we're gonna be able to sell field trips like crazy. Yes, ish. The problem is when you're dealing with a school that's been around for a while, every first grader has their
Yeah.
first grade field trip. Every second grade has it. And
They've
so they're
got habits.
standardized.
They've got
That's right. It's
traditions
habits.
and
So I have to essentially convince you, teacher, to go to your principal and change this structure that's been in place for years. So it was one of those
stuff.
moments that like hindsight, we're like, oh yeah, that's been a little bit harder than we projected, but it's starting to become a bigger and bigger line item for us.
Yeah, well, luckily you live in an area where they're opening new schools like every month and you can catch them
Literally.
early in that tradition.
That's exactly
Like
right. Exactly right.
I've I chaperoned my 8-year-old's field trip and they go to the Dallas Zoo every year.
Yep.
And he's
Yep.
looked forward to that one field trip for years. And it would be really hard to tell all the kids and all the parents, we're not doing that anymore. Even if they're doing something that might be better, that's a
That's
hard
right.
sell. Are
That's right.
you actively trying to grow that or have they just kind of come
Yep.
to you?
Both. So we have a great person on our team, Chelsea. She's actively trying to grow those, and I'm reaching out to people, trying to figure out different ways in, different incentives to get people to come. But then a lot of it is organic because we have a lot of teachers that come to our park on the weekend, and we have signs everywhere that talk about field trips. And they go, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I want to do." And so a lot of it's organic, but a lot of it we go out there and hustle as well.
You should listen. Do you ever listen to How I Built This, the podcast?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, all the time.
Did you ever hear the one with the chicken salad chick founder?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, she's
she,
awesome.
yeah, that was like maybe my favorite episode, but she grew in the early days almost exclusively by giving free food to schools in their break rooms.
Mm.
I feel like you could totally do that. You could get like a little display with small versions of your machinery and buy them Panera or something. I feel
Yeah,
like that would go a long way.
part of our strategy is going in before major holidays, before Christmas, before spring break, before summer, and we give the school tickets to give to every first and second grader and for
Mm,
free, right? Hey, it's a free ticket to come because right, you're banking on park math, right? Park math is if one second grader comes, the family of four, so I get three other tickets that weren't going to come, but they saw this free ticket to go, and so we've been different drivers like that definitely help.
Are you able to track any data on like a kid that came for the first time on a field trip and then came back with his mom or grandma later?
Now we will be able to, yes,
Is
with
that the
our
whole
new
idea with field trips? Or do you want field trips to stand alone? As if none of the kids come back, you need to break a profit.
both. So we definitely want understanding that most kids will never come back, but every field trip that leaves, we give them a free ticket to come back. And where the goal is there, they go home and talk nonstop to mom or dad about how great it was, and then they bring the whole family on Saturday.
Okay. What percentage of capacity would you say you're at right now? Like if for the spot that you're in, that one location, 0 to 100%.
Our attendance is gone up every year, and every year we feel different pain points, but then we work through them to where it's like, oh, okay, that's not that big a deal anymore. So I would say, or I'll say it this way. I guess I ask the question this way. Our target would be to see 45 to 50,000 guests this year total,
Mm-hmm.
annualized, right? I know we can handle up to 75,000 pretty easily. But so that I would answer it that way, if that kind of helps.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think you could see 100,000 at like max capacity, or would you have to open
And
during the week?
I think we would need to open maybe like on a Friday during the day to help for some of that. And then I would need to add a couple more machines for sure.
Yeah. Okay. What about your staff? How many staff do you have? How many are working at any given time? And what kind of
Yeah. So
roles do you staff for?
we have two full-time people. Our general manager is amazing, and our events and coordinator person is amazing. And then we have anywhere. So in our system, we employ about like 55 to 60 people on a given Saturday or Sunday. Anywhere from 18 to 25 will be here. And those range from just people that are working our attractions all the way to we have party coordinators that like Saturdays, like tomorrow, I think we got like 10 birthday parties we're doing. So we've got birthday
Mm,
party coordinators that'll help facilitate those. We've got a lead over admissions, and we've got our social media person. And so it falls in that 55 would be all those jobs.
okay. And then how many, like what's a really busy day look like as far as attendees?
A busy day, I would say we've gotten up to, well, okay, a good day. If I look at the numbers, I'm like, today was a good day. We're north of 450 to 475 people. Busy day, we've had up to 800 people on one day.
Jeez. Wow. And then are you doing anything to actively market other than what you already told me with the field trips? Or are you just leaning on the mall for stuff?
No, quite the opposite. The mall's great. They're a great partner, they're a great landlord. But I would actually, again, another thing that we're trying to quantify this year is how many people went to the mall and then came to us. I don't think it's that high.
Mm.
And so it's more of we're just hammering the social media, right? We're targeting mom, we're targeting people to try to
Mhm.
who's making the weekend plans
A
and
lot of
really trying to
Facebook
be
and
unique.
Instagram.
That's it. That's where we live.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's the mall idea, as brilliant as it is, you might have gone into it thinking, all right, this is going to drive a ton of our traffic, and then learned, actually, it's not, but we don't really need it because we lean on social media so heavily.
Yeah, I would say the biggest value add of the mall is what you said earlier. We know people are driving to this part of town, right? So
Yeah.
therefore, I'm not just way out in the middle of nowhere banking that like people will drive, right? Because people are creatures of habit, right? For some people, driving 15 minutes is a far drive. For Houstonians, you drive 45 minutes to get to your breakfast meeting,
Hmm.
kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I would say that's where the mall benefited us is we know people are driving here. So therefore, they would drive here to go to a theme park.
Yeah. Okay. Has there been like an unexpected marketing channel that's performed really well, like word of mouth or something that's just really surprised you?
As obvious as it sounds, and I would say we didn't probably weigh this enough when we started, is influencer brand engagement, right? Paying people or people that we do deals with that come in here and post about us, reaching out to paid and unpaid. That has driven most of our traffic.
Interesting. That makes sense. Just the video of what you do is so compelling for people to watch.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's the other thing too, right? Is and I think this is with any entrepreneur, you get so used to your product, it loses its sizzle to you sometimes, right?
Mhm.
Because it just is
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, that's what I do. And oh yeah, it's so routine for me. Like, yeah, I can put my 4-year-old daughter on the excavator and let her drive it. If you just drop that in normal conversation, you're like, excuse me, hold on, back that
Yeah.
up for a second. And so when you're right, when you just captivate somebody and go, what did I just see a kid driving a skid steer? Yeah, it helps spiral it out of control in a good way.
Yeah. So if you were to be able to go back in time, what would you have done differently from day 1 that you can't really change today, if anything, knowing what you
I
know
think
now?
Rick and I, yeah, I think Rick and I would tell you the park layout. We've learned some things of like pinch points at the park, different lines that we didn't realize would be much longer than some of the other attractions. So I would say a lot of just the flow. I think we would change a little bit of the flow of the things. I'm not sure I would fundamentally change a lot of what we did. I think we did a ton of research for a few years, right? We had some great friends that helped us a lot. So I think we got to skip a lot of the mistakes early on that we could have made. But I would say a lot of I would just say the design maybe would be some of the things that changed.
Okay. So with that in mind, what's next for Dig World? What are your world domination plans?
If you're listening to this, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at info@digworldtx.com. You can find it on our website. We are very close to starting to offer franchise opportunities. And by very close, definitely this calendar year. And so we'd love to find right partners that want to grow with us, a great brand across the country. We truly believe in our brand and believe in the hospitality and the customer service that we're trying to deliver. And we're looking for good people that want to grow alongside with us and have that opportunity to own your own business and do it in your own community. And so, what's next for Dig World is growing franchises across the country.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think this is something. I think the whole experiential outdoor space is just at its very, very early days, right? The more the world goes
Agreed.
online, the more we're going to want to offset that by stuff outside. I
That's
think
right.
that we haven't
That's
even
right.
seen the peak of that yet.
That's right.
Well, that's all I got, man. I love learning about your business. Thank you for coming on. You've got an amazing story, and I'm really excited for people to hear it.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here today, and we'd love to hear from any of your listeners. And keep the crazy questions coming. We love them.
Okay. Thanks, Jacob.
Absolutely. Thank you.